Have you ever wondered why so many men feel invisible in today's dating world? Why they can walk into a room, scroll through apps, send messages, approach women, and yet no one seems to notice them? It's not because they are bad men. It's not because they don't have good hearts. It's because the rules of modern dating have completely shifted, and most men are playing a game they don't even understand. Today, women are living in an attention economy. A woman doesn't just get validation from the man across the street, she gets it from hundreds, sometimes thousands of men online. Likes, comments, DMs, constant attention. She doesn't even have to leave her room to feel like she is desired. So, what happens to the average man, the man who doesn't have six-pack abs, the man who isn't driving a luxury car, the man who isn't a digital celebrity? He becomes invisible. Let's break it down. In modern dating, the top 10 to 20% of men get almost all of the attention. Think about that. Women are not looking at 80% of men anymore because why would they? If they have access to a man with status, looks, money, or influence through social media, why would they settle for the man who is standing in front of them at the grocery store? It's not that the man is unattractive, it's that he doesn't even register in her field of vision. Now, here's the painful truth. Invisibility is not rejection. Rejection means she looked at you, considered you, and said no. Invisibility means she didn't even think you existed. And that is far more damaging to the male psyche because a man can handle rejection, he can learn from it, he can adapt. But invisibility, that eats away at his confidence, his identity, his sense of worth. So, why are 80% of men invisible? Because modern dating has created a brutal marketplace. Women today are not just dating men in their city, their town, their country. They are dating globally, virtually, socially. She can talk to a man in Dubai, in London, in New York, all from her phone. So, the average man is no longer competing with the guy down the street. He's competing with men who live on the other side of the world, men who look richer, stronger, more charismatic on her screen. Ask yourself this. When a woman has access to an endless pool of men online, does she really care about the average guy working 9 to 5? The guy who takes the bus? The guy who's still trying to figure out his purpose? No, because she has been conditioned to believe that better options are just a swipe away. And this is where it gets dark. Many men today don't even realize how invisible they are. They think if they just keep trying, keep approaching, keep swiping, someone will notice them. But the algorithms are not designed to give attention to average men. Dating apps, social media platforms, they know the truth. They know women only respond to the top tier men. That's why men swipe endlessly while women are selective. That's why men pay for premium apps, but women get all the benefits for free. So, what does that do to men? It breeds resentment, it breeds depression, it makes them question themselves. Am I not tall enough, not handsome enough, not rich enough, not confident enough? And slowly they stop trying. They retreat into video games, into isolation, into silent frustration. And society doesn't care because society is busy telling women they can have it all, that they should never settle, that they should always look for better. But nobody is telling men how to navigate this new battlefield. Think about this. In history, men had a role. They were providers, protectors, builders. Their value was visible. A man's strength, his courage, his leadership, it was appreciated. But today, we live in a world where masculine roles are questioned, mocked, diminished. A man who provides is told he's not doing enough. A man who protects is told he's controlling. A man who leads is told he's toxic. So, where does that leave him? Invisible. But here's the paradox. Women still want men. They still crave masculine energy. They still dream of security, of stability, of leadership. Yet the culture tells them to ignore the average man, to chase only the exceptional, the Instagram worthy, the man with the lifestyle she can brag about. And this is why 80% of men walk around unnoticed, while women complain there are no good men left. Let me ask you, How can there be no good men when millions of them are invisible, waiting, ready, willing? The truth is, good men exist everywhere, but they are not glamorous enough for modern dating standards. They are not shiny enough to catch attention in the chaos of social media. They are not dramatic enough to stand out in a world addicted to extremes. This is why so many men feel broken, because they're told to be good, but being good doesn't get them noticed. They're told to be patient, but patience doesn't get them dates. They're told to respect women, but respect doesn't get them attraction. And slowly they realize the harsh truth. Modern dating is not about fairness, it's about visibility. And visibility today belongs to the few, while the many fade into the background. So the question isn't why 80% of men are invisible. The question is, how long can men tolerate being unseen before they change the game completely? How long before they stop chasing women who never look their way? How long before they build their own standards, their own lives, their own value systems that don't depend on female validation? Because let me tell you, when a man stops begging to be seen, when he stops living for attention, when he builds himself into something strong, unshakable, undeniable, he is no longer invisible. Not because women notice him, but because he finally notices himself. And here's something you need to understand. The majority of men today don't lack potential. They lack strategy. They lack awareness. They don't understand how hypergamy works, how female psychology has shifted in a digital age, how attention has become currency. If you don't know the rules of the game, you will always be played. And that is why most men remain invisible, not because they are unworthy, but because they are unprepared. Think about it. How many men actually invest in themselves beyond survival? They go to work, they come home, they scroll, they eat, they sleep, and then they wonder why no one notices them. But what women see is not just your physical presence. They see your aura, your ambition, your ability to command space. If you don't walk into a room like you belong there, you will be ignored. If you don't speak like your words carry weight, you will be silenced. If you don't carry yourself with authority, you will be dismissed. And yet, here's the irony. Women are drawn to strength, but society tells men not to be strong. Women are drawn to leadership, but men are told not to lead. Women are drawn to direction, but men are told to play it safe, to be agreeable, to suppress their masculine instincts. So what happens? Men shrink, they hide, they adapt to a system that was never designed for them, and in that shrinking, they vanish. But invisibility doesn't just happen in dating, it seeps into every aspect of life. A man who is invisible in relationships will soon become invisible in his career, invisible among his peers, invisible even to himself. Because when you're constantly overlooked, you start believing that's your destiny. You stop standing out. You stop raising your standards. You stop demanding respect. And then you become exactly what society wants you to be, another silent, invisible man who accepts crumbs. And let's not forget, invisibility is not gender neutral. A woman can be average, plain, ordinary, and still receive attention simply for existing as a woman. But a man, he must earn every ounce of recognition. He must build himself into something noticeable. He must prove every single day that he is worthy of being chosen. Otherwise, he fades into the background noise of billions of men who will never get noticed. Now, let's talk about dating apps for a moment. The statistics are brutal. A small percentage of men get almost all the matches, all the attention, while the majority are left swiping endlessly with nothing in return. Women filter ruthlessly height, income, appearance, lifestyle. And the men who don't tick every box, they don't even exist in her world. He could be kind, loyal, intelligent, but if his profile doesn't scream top tier, he doesn't even get the chance to show who he really is. And this creates a dangerous loop. Women chase chase the same small pool of men. Those men exploit their options, and the remaining men are left invisible. Then women complain about men being players. Men complain about women being hyper-selective, and the cycle of bitterness continues. But at the core of it is this brutal truth. Invisibility has become the silent epidemic of modern men. And I want you to really imagine the pain of that. Imagine living in a world where you are told from birth that your value comes from your ability to attract a partner, to create a family, to be a man of influence, and then no one even sees you. Imagine standing in a crowd, waving your arms, screaming for recognition, and everyone looking past you as if you are not even there. That's what 80% of men feel every single day. And no one talks about it. No one acknowledges it, because men are not allowed to be victims. They are expected to tough it out, to suffer silently, to disappear without complaint. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Many men try to compensate for invisibility in unhealthy ways. They chase validation through money they don't have, through fake images on social media, through desperate behaviors that only make them more invisible. They think if they just flex harder, someone will finally look. But what happens? The more they try to be seen in the wrong ways, the more they blend into the background of all the other men doing the exact same thing. And this is why invisibility is more dangerous than rejection. Rejection stings in the moment, but invisibility kills you slowly. It makes you question your very existence. It makes you wonder if you matter at all. And once a man reaches that point, once he truly believes he is invisible, he starts living like it. Quiet, hesitant, unconfident, overlooked. And when he lives like that, the world reflects it back to him. And this is the tragedy. Most men don't even realize how conditioned they have become to accept invisibility as normal. They laugh about it with their friends. They make memes about being ignored. They joke about never getting replies. But deep down, it eats them alive. Every unanswered message, every ignored glance, every empty weekend reminds them that they don't matter in the marketplace. And the truth is, human beings were not built to live unseen. The male spirit craves recognition, respect, and legacy. Strip that away, and you're left with a hollow shell of a man. Now let's go deeper. Why does invisibility hurt men so much more than women? Because men are taught from a young age that their worth is earned, not given. A woman can exist and be valued for her beauty, her youth, her femininity. A man must build, must grind, must prove. So when he does all of that, studies, works, sacrifices, holds himself together, and still gets nothing in return, the pain is unbearable. It feels like betrayal. It feels like the world lied to him. And in many ways, it did. Society told men to be nice, to be respectful, to be reliable. But women aren't attracted to nice without power. They aren't drawn to reliability without ambition. They don't want safety without excitement. So men are following a script that no longer works, while women are selecting from a completely different set of criteria. And the gap between the two grows wider and wider until the majority of men disappear from the equation altogether. Think about how this plays out in real life. A man goes on a dating app, sends 100 messages, gets maybe one reply, maybe one chance. Meanwhile, a woman signs up, posts 2 pictures, and is overwhelmed by attention. What lesson does this teach him? That no matter how hard he tries, he will always be at a disadvantage. That he is invisible not because he lacks value, but because the system is stacked against him. And yet, instead of addressing the imbalance, society tells him to man up, to try harder, to improve himself. But how much improvement is enough when the bar keeps moving higher and higher? This is why men are withdrawing from dating altogether. Some call it the rise of the involuntary celibate. Others call it the loneliness epidemic. But the root is the same: invisibility. Men are not refusing to engage because they hate women. They are refusing because they are tired of fighting to be seen. They are tired of being invisible no matter what they do. And when enough men step out of the game, the entire system begins to collapse. Look at the consequences already showing. Marriage rates are dropping, birth rates are declining, relationships are shorter, more unstable, less meaningful. Women say they can't find men who meet their standards. Men say women are too unrealistic. And in the middle, human connection is dying. But underneath all of it is the same silent wound: invisibility. 8 out of 10 men are not just struggling in dating, they are erased from it completely. And let's not pretend this invisibility is harmless. It leads to anger, to bitterness, to disillusionment. It drives men into extremes, either becoming obsessively focused on chasing status to finally be noticed, or giving up entirely and numbing themselves with distractions. And when men check out of life, the whole society pays the price because invisible men stop building, invisible men stop leading, invisible men stop protecting. And when men stop doing those things, civilizations crumble. Now pause and ask yourself this: what happens to a generation of women when 80% of men are invisible? Do they keep chasing the same 20% until they burn out? Do they settle later in life when options shrink? Do they start questioning the very culture that taught them to ignore good men in the first place? Or do they double down, raising the bar higher, demanding more, and in the process, making even fewer men visible? This is the loop we are stuck in, a loop where men's invisibility feeds women's dissatisfaction and women's dissatisfaction deepens men's invisibility, a cycle that has no winners, only losers. Because when the majority of men are invisible, women also lose, whether they realize it now or years later when loneliness starts knocking on their door. And the cruel part is, none of this is spoken about openly. It's always whispered, hidden, pushed aside. Men are shamed for even admitting they feel invisible. They're told they're weak for wanting love, needy for wanting attention, pathetic for wanting recognition. But deep down, isn't that what all humans want? To be seen, to be valued, to be chosen? Why is it acceptable for women to crave that, but shameful for men? And so the truth cannot be ignored anymore. 80% of men are not invisible because they are weak. They are invisible because the system has made them that way. But invisibility is not a death sentence unless you choose to stay there. You can either accept being unseen, or you can build yourself into a man who cannot be overlooked, a man who doesn't beg for attention, but commands it, a man who doesn't live for validation, but for purpose. The modern dating world will not hand you recognition, and it will not reward you for simply existing. But when you rise above invisibility, when you decide to sharpen your mind, strengthen your body, claim your authority, and walk with direction, you stop being one of the countless faces in the background. You become undeniable. And let me tell you this: the world may ignore average, but it can never ignore greatness. The choice is yours: stay invisible or step into the light and make yourself seen.